All right, Miss Ruby, we still have a small group. Do you want to wait another minute or two?
You know, it really doesn't matter to me. We always said if there was one, if there was two. Justin's here and Jeanette's here, and it sounds like I haven't asked Jeanette. We haven't talked to her too much about her service to 4-H, but it sounds like Justin is just the person that needs to be here to hear what I'm going to be talking about. Probably Jeanette too. Oh, I see it's coming.
Yeah, we've got a couple other folks joining on
Yeah.
now, so good.
So we'll wait. You want to wait just a couple more, maybe another, or you want me to get started? That way we can finish on time and
Sure, and I can start with announcements, and that will be a
okay.
few minutes.
Okay, that sounds good. You go ahead.
Awesome, great. All right, well, good afternoon, everybody, and this is the Louisiana 4-H Volunteer Leader webinar series. So we do these once a month on topics that you select, and tonight our sessions on ideas and strategies for new leaders, new volunteers, and new clubs. We do call our 4-H volunteers leaders in Louisiana 4-H because they are essentially leading educational initiatives across the state, which is essential to the 4-H program and allowing us to reach youth in all areas. So we're happy to have Miss Ruby on the call today. Very experienced 4-H leader, a master volunteer, as well as a National 4-H Hall of Fame inductee, former agent, everything and anything. That is what Miss Ruby has done and has contributed to Louisiana 4-H. So a couple of updates before we get started, and just the agenda for tonight. We're going to have some announcements and then hand it off to Miss Ruby to talk about being a new leader and share some experiences and stories of her role in 4-H and offering some of those ideas and strategies for our new leaders on the call. We're also going to do some sharing of resources, so where training as well as resources are available for our leaders throughout the state. And then we'll open it up for conversation towards the end of the call tonight. A couple of announcements to go through. So we do have a 4-H regional volunteer call coming up later this month. This is a collaboration with the specialists throughout the Southeast region. Typically for this session, Louisiana 4-H co-hosts with Arkansas, and then several other specialists throughout the call also connect. We do have participation throughout the United States on these conversations. Anywhere between 50 and 100 leaders throughout the U.S. will participate. That session on July 27th is actually on developing partnerships. So we're going to hopefully have an opportunity for you to connect with other volunteer leaders throughout the nation on those specific topic areas that you are interested in. So providing those breakout sessions where you can have build connections and talk about the programs that you implement in 4-H, or if you're a new leader, that's a great opportunity to just learn from others that may have more experience. So hopefully you'll get an opportunity to participate in that call. I will send this link out again. So if you don't have an opportunity to copy it down, that's okay. I do provide the PowerPoints typically the next day after these sessions that you'll be able to register for that particular session coming up. The National 4-H Volunteer Conference, the registration is open. We do spend September 30th to October 3rd in Rock Eagle, Georgia. We have a group that does go up there every year. We do have a group that's going again. It's a wonderful conference. I've been to lots of conferences throughout my career in academia, and I'll say this one's the funnest one to attend, and I will be attending. We have several other leaders that have already stated that they are attending. So registration is open. If you have questions about Rock Eagle, you can ask them in the chat. We've got we got several folks on the call right now that have been to Rock Eagle before. I know I see Jay, Ruby as well. So questions, you can ask them in the chat, or you can feel free to reach out via email, and we'll chat more about attending National 4-H Volunteer Conference. We are planning to have, this one's tentative, I'm sorry. The tentative was on the slide earlier. We're tentatively looking to have the volunteer conference in November this year. There was some discussion just recently, actually last night, about pushing that date a little later. Typically, we have this conference in September, but given the COVID restrictions, so we're looking at potentially having this the Louisiana 4-H Volunteer Conference as a one-day event where you can participate as a one-day participant at Campground Walker. So we're exploring that. So if you're getting the volunteer newsletter, that's going to be updated in the next newsletter. So look for that update on that potential date for the volunteer conference. And also what we are planning on having a master volunteer workshop coming up in January. So those of you that want to work on your master volunteer portfolio, whether you're just starting it, whether you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, or whether you're working on a specific level, we will have a workshop. We're going to have an in-person on LSU's campus, but we will have opportunity for you to participate virtually if you don't want to travel. Well, it's a workshop format, so we're going to work together on getting that master volunteer accreditation, getting that portfolio produced, and hopefully having another large group of master volunteers for the 2021-2022 year. And just an update, we do have a newsletter that is produced for our volunteer leaders. If you don't get it, do reach out to me. I can put you on that mailing list. We have about 500 folks on there right now. I'd like to get that more over to 2,000, 3,000 folks over the next few years. So if you don't get our volunteer newsletter, please just send me a quick email after this call today. All right, and those are my quick updates. We will share resources and links after the call of other resources available to our leaders. But now I'm going to actually hand it off to Miss Ruby Miller. She's going to talk about ideas and strategies for our new leaders and new clubs, and also read us in some fun, engaging activities. So our Master Volunteer National Hall of Fame inductee, former agent, a lifetime of leader experience. It's Miss Ruby Miller. So.
Oh gosh, thank you so much for that introduction. That was really nice. So it's so nice to be here with all of you this afternoon. I'd like to ask you, if possible, to keep your mics muted. We're going to comment and communicate through the chat. And also wait to post any questions you might have until the end of the presentation. We're going to have a share session at the end, so wait for your questions because I will be able to address some of your questions, but I'm looking at the list of people on this call, and there are people on this call that can help answer your questions as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my my slideshow, my screen with you, and get going here. So I wanted to start out by saying how exciting it was moving towards a familiar existence, a more familiar existence with coming out of most of the COVID restrictions, but it sounds like some of them may come back to visit us, but not all. But it is an exciting time because the COVID pandemic changed 4-H life as we knew it. But through all that, it's probably taught us very, very valuable lessons as well. So what I would like for you to consider is this question: what is one thing you have learned or come to realize as a result of the pandemic? And what I'd like for you to do is write your answer, type your answer in the chat, but don't submit it yet. Wait, and we're going to submit them all at the same time. And that way we'll have some authentic answers, some unique answers. So what's the one thing you've learned or come to realize as a result of the pandemic? And I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds. And if you want to go ahead and hit submit, Megan will let me know if there's comments, if it's populating some comments.
And I messed up. I hit send before I was supposed to. I apologize, but I will.
That's okay. Does it look like we have some comments?
Oh, I don't know. Did you tell them to hit send?
Yep, go ahead. You guys hit send.
You've got some that are pretty good. Do you want me to start reading?
Yes, if you will.
Okay.
Go ahead and read them.
So Nikita said, I have learned the importance of community. Oh my goodness. I also learned that. So I appreciate that comment. Jeanette said virtual activities are very much a great way to go for some. I think she meant, um, for some engagement. So
Right.
yeah, we could definitely, they can be helpful. Um, Justin said anything can happen at any time
That's
unexpectedly.
that's right.
Yeah. And I also commented, I get my energy from people, and I realize that,
Yeah.
more with the pandemic. So, anybody else? We got some people liking comments. No, Jay's on the call, but I hadn't heard anything from her yet.
Oh, I learned a lot from Jay.
I know Susan's on and Lydia is on as well. So,
Well, I know that when the comment that was made about technology, one of the things we've all learned is about that technology does have a place, doesn't it? It sure did get us, keep us running and up and moving and connected. So
I'm
do we
sorry, you guys. This is Jay. I'm on my phone and having trouble with the chat for some reason, so I'm going to switch to my computer. So it'll take me a few minutes to switch
okay.
over.
Okay, well, why don't you, while you're here, Jay, just tell us what's one thing you've learned or come to realize as a result of the pandemic?
Oh wow, so many things. I love the comment about community. We learned how to stay connected virtually, which we had never done before. That was new to me. That the virtual world, I kind of uh, just went kicking and screaming with technology, but it really saved a lot of things to be able to connect in those communities and stay activated. I'm sorry, stay active, stay motivated, stay inspired. And it was amazing to watch this transformation in all the things we did in 4-H virtually this year. It was just amazing to me.
Very good comment. So, well, those were all very good comments, and I want to share with you guys. The one thing that I came to realize is that we should always keep an open mind, especially now when we want to offer 4-H opportunities to youth after a year and a half of quarantine. So today I want to share ideas and strategies for new volunteers and clubs, and I ask that you keep an open mind as you consider the most effective way to move your club members forward in the coming year. Some of you might be new volunteers, but some of you are seasoned as well, and you're just returning to your 4-H post after many months with other things on your mind and having to do all kinds of out of the box kinds of things. So I think it's very important that we review some important aspects of 4-H that guides our work with young people. So remember, 4-H is the largest youth development organization in the United States, with about 6 million youth participants who are supported in their project work by more than 500,000 volunteers. So we are not alone, and we're definitely not small. We are an enormous group making big steps towards better communities and a better world. So I hope you feel proud that you are part of this. You're part of something very big. Also, something that leaders sometimes don't always think about and that we need to remember is that 4-H involves families with their children at home and in clubs reaching youth ages 8 to 18 and clover buds ages 5 to 7. Sometimes we get wrapped up in our club work and working with kids that we forget that 4-H is a family activity. And sometimes we get wrapped up in working with those school-age kids 8 to 18 and forget that we can have clover buds age 5 to 7. It's my favorite group. And I do want to say that a study done by Penn State in 2013 noted that youth are more likely to be successful within the 4-H program if their parents are involved. So one of the things that we want to do as 4-H volunteers, club volunteers, wherever we volunteer, is to get those families, those parents involved. for the success of the program, the success that the kids have within our program. And 4-H believes in meeting young people where they are and helping them develop an effective in deciding where they go. The real reward of being a 4-H leader comes from watching young people grow into happy, mature adults. I can vouch for that, and I think every seasoned volunteer can. As young people move into adult roles, they realize the influence you and 4-H have on their lives. You serve an important role in the community, and you play an important part in the lives of many people and the future of our country and the world. So please always know that volunteering is very important. And 4-H encourages young people to be part of a 4-H club, which will increase their sense of belonging, teach them to work productively as members of a group, and allow them to develop communication skills. So let's talk more about those clubs. Whenever I was growing up, I remember watching The Little Rascals on cartoons, like a 30-minute show right after school. And this is not the 80s and the 90s movies of The Little Rascals. This is the 40s and the 50s that you could barely understand what they were saying, or the film was always crackling and popping. But one of the things that they did in The Little Rascals is they were always forming clubs. And as a young person, I wanted to belong to a club because they had a sense of purpose. They always had something they were working on. They always stuck together. They always felt like they were supported. So in 4-H, clubs are the most traditional and effective delivery mode of 4-H programming to youth. 4-H clubs should consist of 5 or more youth. That way you have a good number, a small number, but a good number for interaction between youth. And they're guided by 2 or more adult volunteers. And there's a safety reason for volunteers and our youth. Something we have in place is 2 deep leadership, and we may talk about that more at the end of the presentation, or we could possibly provide you with more information if you need to know more about 2 deep leadership. But lots of people believe that 4-H clubs only exist in school. And even though our organization is a partner in education within our parishes, there are several different types of 4-H clubs that can exist. So you can have neighborhood clubs, and it's exactly what it means, what it says. It's a club that's put together with kids that are within a neighborhood. There's a reason for the club to start. Maybe they are kids that don't have a lot of opportunities within the town they're in, and some people want to get together and offer recreational activities, project activities for the kids that live in the surrounding area, and 4-H has programs that can fit that need. It can also be just a project club, and we have lots of those in existence. We have shooting sports, we have livestock, we have food and fitness, we have set. So these kids come together because they have a certain interest and they want to gain certain skills. And again, we have the programs and we have the curriculum within 4-H to fit the needs here with these youth. It could be a school club, and I think we're almost all familiar with school clubs, and they serve an enormous purpose. The school club leaders have the ability to reach a lot of kids in one space, and you can bring them together from different grades and have them within the club, and they find a place they fit within school. They're able to meet better, become acquainted with the people in their school, the kids in their school. They're able to make a difference within their school, maybe even within their community. And it gives 4-H agents access to gain relationships with kids, a large number of kids across a parish and even across the state. After school clubs are very important, and we know we have a lot of kids that are latchkey kids, and maybe they have a program at their school where they can stay after school, and you want some meaningful program for them. 4-H has lots of different programs, lots of different curriculum, lots of different subject matter experts that can fit this need. If there's a school that's looking to up their program and have their youth learn more about science, you could always start a SET club. So after school clubs are very, very important. Homeschool clubs, and I'm coming to know that they're very important because I have 4 grandchildren that are homeschooled in the state of New York. And without the homeschool clubs, so that they can get to know kids that are interested in cooking, that are interested in science, that are interested in livestock, just like they are, and then have that extra curriculum that they can use. They can buy the project books, or they can go to the county 4-H agent and see what they have on hand, that the kids can have their extracurricular activities, and 4-H meets that need. And there are also sponsored clubs that can be started, like, for instance, YMCA may want some sort of a program. They may want to teach kids more about, I don't know if it would ever be shooting sports, but maybe they want to teach them gun safety. And shooting sports is a perfect place to have master volunteers and experts on gun safety, and they could come in and speak to a YMCA group, or you could start a nutrition club. So keep an open mind when it comes to clubs, because there's lots of different clubs and there's lots of different things that we can offer our participants. So let's, now I want to stop for just a second, and I want you to take a look at this picture. And in the chat, I want you to comment, and you don't have to wait for everybody on this. I just want you to comment on what you see in this picture. And Megan's going to let me know as those comments come in. Just submit a word, 2, if you think there are 2 things that you see. What do you see in this picture?
So I'll say, I'll comment. I'll just tell you what I was thinking first, but you got a lot of comments coming in. I saw strength at first, like I saw like that's the first word that came to my mind. And then Justin said a king. Jeanette said Rumi. I went to school at SLU. Nikita said wisdom, and Lydia said fierceness. So you've got a lot of good comments in the chat.
Okay, very, very good. Well, since the original...
Jay said confidence. Sorry, Jay said confidence. That just came in.
Very good. Very good. You guys are seeing lots in that picture. I'm happy with those responses. That's very good. Well, since the original corn and tomato clubs of the early 20th century, 4-H has come a long way. And some volunteers and agents like to keep 4-H and their meetings and their clubs very traditional. They don't want to move too far away from the original clubs that were formed in the practices that we had in 1940 or 1950 or 1960, because they believe it worked and they want to have respect for the way that it worked, and it's a tradition. But we also have those volunteer leaders and those agents that are out of the box thinkers, and they want to do something different, and they want to just add so much energy and just transform things around. So experienced volunteer leaders know something that young volunteer leaders should consider. That when it comes to working with others in a club, because there's no club that operates in isolation, it's good to respect others and keep an open mind, because sometimes you might see a lion and strength and fierceness, and sometimes you might see the mouse that's quiet and meek. No one sees things the same way. So in a club, and no one has the same perception of what should be. So when it comes to 4-H clubs and club meetings, please keep an open mind. So that's just a little bit of advice there. But now we're going to talk a little bit more about tradition and about club meetings. So I don't know how much experience you've all had with club meetings, but when it comes to club meetings, It's suggested that there should be at least 3 parts. And traditionally, we would break our club meetings up into a business meeting that would take about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, an educational program, which would take about 30 minutes, and a recreational part of the meeting, which would take 15 to 20 minutes. Now, during, I think it was January or February, Wisconsin 4-H Extension Service and 4-H posted a YouTube video about a training they had with their leaders. And they had a really interesting idea that really resonated with me, and how we would look at our club meetings and decide what would happen in those meetings just a little bit differently by the labels we put on it. And they had the parts of a club meeting as the 3 L's. The business meeting would be the leading, because that's what we do during a business meeting. We teach youth how to lead. That's the purpose. And the learning part would be educational programs. Well, the learning could be not just a program that's delivered by a subject matter expert or a guest speaker or a teacher. Anyone that could provide learning, or anything that you could learn that was of interest of the group, could happen here. This could be this portion. And the last part, instead of recreation, would be the laughing. That's where you enjoy yourself and you have fun and you just relax just a little bit. And they talk about the time limit, but what I always found is that the 15 minutes that I originally scheduled for a business meeting sometimes would take 30 minutes. And I was a classroom teacher at one time, and I was a school club leader. So if that took more time, the business part of it, then that meant the educational program was going to take 30 minutes, because it was usually someone who came in or someone who had worked really hard on that particular part. And what would happen is we'd have very little time for the laughing part, the recreation part. So it's really up to you if how you have these things laid out in your club meeting. There's no set way. 4-H has never really said that you have to have a business meeting if you have no business to discuss. So if you have no business, then you don't have to have that portion of your meeting, and you can go on with the educational program and the recreation, and maybe take a little more time for those activities and the learning to take place, and have the kids enjoy that recreational activity that you never seem to have enough time to deliver. So we're going to talk just a little bit more about these parts of a club meeting. So we're going to start, and I'm going to call it the leading tips. Here are my tips, are not just mine. This is from a lot of different people and things that I've learned by following the people that came before me and the people that I work right alongside of when delivering 4-H programs. The question here should be, how can we use our young people as leaders? So first of all, we're going to talk about an agenda. An agenda is very important whenever you're planning a meeting, and it's good to have the young people know that there's an agenda to follow. Now, whenever you first start a club, you may have to make that agenda, because your volunteer leaders, your parents maybe that you're involving, other people may not know exactly what to do and what's going on. So you may plan that first agenda, but you may talk to your youth about the planning and what you did to plan the agenda. And what I suggest is, I could remember a school club, and even when it was a project club, sometimes I didn't have enough time between meetings to get with my officers or the members to have them plan the agenda. So at the end of each meeting, I'd have a little mini meeting after each one of those regular meetings. And I would ask them, it was either the whole group, if we had a small group if it was a project club that we only had 10 members, or the officers if we had a big club. And I would ask them, what do you think we need to be doing next month? What would you like to see in our meeting? What would you like to do in December? Maybe even to start planning a calendar of events. And they may decide in December that they want to have a Christmas party. So we know that that's coming up, that needs to be on our agenda, and we need to bring that before the members that in December, we want to have a Christmas party. The other thing that this idea came from someone and it really worked for me, is to change up that agenda. Take all your agenda parts, cut them up, and put them in a hat. And for one meeting, let the kids pull out of the hat, and it might say that you're doing the laughing first. So your recreational activity might come first. What a welcome change. Those kids will be so excited that they get to do that. So change it up a little bit. You might do roll call last. You might always decide to, instead of pulling from a hat, you might decide that your recreational activity or the laughing comes in the center, and that you might do the business meeting last. So you don't have to follow a given, even though we have lots of different suggested agendas and templates for agendas, you don't have to follow that like it's the way that it has to be. The kids can decide, and you can make some changes according to what your youth need. And you always want, the last bullet there is to guide youth in taking part. You may start out making that agenda, but you may decide to give that over to youth that's really stepping forward. You can see some leadership there, and you give them an opportunity to lead, and maybe decide how, with another group, there may be, if you don't have officers, and the officers would normally do this, if you don't have officers to begin with, or you may not have officers because your club is very small, you don't have any money that you're taking in, so there may be no need to have officers. So you may want to give youth, guide youth in taking this part. Take part in the agenda. They may deliver parts of the agenda. They may create the agenda. So turn that over to youth. The next part is making motions. Now, when it comes to taking care of business and having youth members involved, you want to create a committee or two, if possible. Committees research ideas when the membership has to make a decision. In this way, you're guiding youth members to take on responsibility and make decisions. And you may wonder, how do I start with committees? Well, remember when you talked about the agenda, you had that little mini meeting, and the kids decided, or the youth, it could be the teens, decided they wanted to have a Christmas party. You could decide at that time that you might need to put a committee together so they can decide on, they can research, they can look up options according, and then you teach them, how much money do we have? How much money can we spend? Look at that for our group. What are the options logistically? Are there any options for us to have a Christmas party in school? Or is there any options for us to have a Christmas party at a church, maybe at a restaurant? How much money do we have to spend? Can everybody attend? We don't want to leave everybody out. And give them some guidelines. Give that committee some guidelines, and they're going to come up with some ideas. They'll be your research people. Well, after you have those committees, then comes the parliamentary procedures, otherwise known as Robert's Rules of Order. And that can be very scary to me, because I know I've learned Robert's Rules of Order, I've applied them, but in the last year and a half, I've not done a whole lot with Robert's Rules of Order, so I'm going to have to revisit it. Kids and youth, teens, don't have to know everything about Robert's Rules of Order. But parliamentary procedures are used to keep meetings moving forward. So it might be beneficial to teach members how to make a motion by moving an idea along. Remember that Christmas party that was on the agenda? Well, someone sees it on the agenda and makes the motion, or makes a motion by moving that agenda item along. They won't stand up and say, I make a motion. They'll stand up and say, I move that we have a Christmas party in December, and that we go to the First Baptist Church in their community center, and they may have some ideas. Well, if someone seconds that motion, then that means it warrants taking a look at. That means that two people at least think this is a good idea. So what are we going to do? We're going to discuss. And when we discuss, guess what? We have a committee that's been researching ideas and can tell us that, give us some options. Tell us why there may be a better venue. Tell us why this particular venue may not be the best for the group to meet. So they come up with some ideas and they're all communicating. So your agenda has helped you, your committees have helped you, and now you've used simple parliamentary procedures to help kids make decisions. And let's talk about the decisions. Making decisions is an important part of the 4-H club experience. Helping youth use their voice to express their opinion is not just something we could do, it's something we need to be doing. One way for youth to make decisions about their club is by encouraging and allowing them to vote on issues related to their club at meetings. So there's lots of different ways you can have your members vote. They can do it in person. So if they're there, they can have a show of hands, or they can stand if they're for something and stay seated if they're opposed to it. We have lots of online, if this is skipping down to other, and I may come back, but right now I'm just thinking, we've learned so much about online. You could even tell if you're a school club, even if you're just a small neighborhood club, you may have a way that they can vote. All reach a poll online, and we have so many apps and ways to do it digitally. Let's not let go of any of those. We have Polly, we have Easy Poll, Kahoot, everybody loves Kahoot. We had Pear Deck, Slido, Easy Poll Everywhere. We have lots of different polling, voting, online ways to get that done if you still want to keep a digital component to your meeting. And that's pretty good, because if COVID restrictions come around again, guess what? You want your kids to be familiar with some of these tools and still have practiced with them and know what's going to work and what may not work. So keep some of those things going. But also, you could vote with your feet. And I remember whenever I was in 4-H, I had a 4-H leader say that we were going to vote with our feet, and I was just horrified that I may have to take off my shoes and show some toes. But actually what that means is that you stand up and walk, your feet move you to the side of the room that you are voting for something that you're most in favor. That move by your feet will reflect your vote or your idea of what should happen. We have lots of other things, and at the end of this, when we have discussions, we have some seasoned volunteers who could offer so many more ideas. I remember putting chips in a jar. I remember moving different color marbles and counting those. So lots of different ways to vote. So agendas, making motions, committees, using parliamentary procedures, voting, very good things to allow your members to move into the leadership roles that we know they'll have, not only in their club and in their school, but in the community after they've graduated. That's what 4-H does for kids. We give them these sorts of skills. We help them develop. So now let's talk about the learning part, the learning tips. How do we educate our youth members when it comes to the learning part? Well, first of all, the most important thing is to find out what your members are interested in. So you can use polling. Again, you can online polling, or if you're able to meet face-to-face, you can post-it notes up on posters and have them just write their interest and put them all together, then start as a group to move those around. This would be something good to do at one of the very first meetings before you have any business to conduct, before you've had people want to come visit with your group, before the 4-H agents are wanting to come into your schools, or you're going to have some sort of practice if you have a project club. So using polling, post-it notes, online, just discussions. But in these discussions, the next bullet is get to know your members. Nothing, especially if you have a small group, nothing is more rewarding than to walk up and listen, actually listen to those members and know that they're really interested in learning and gaining some skills in some really good areas. And we know 4-H can meet that need. We know we can help them along in gaining these skills. So get to know your members, talk to them. Even if you have a large school club, those can, I know whenever I was a 4-H agent, our Grand Lake Elementary Club had to be split in two because we had 250 members. So 250 members, it's really hard to get to know your members, but that's where the parent volunteers and parent interaction. If you have a parent that can help you along in those meetings and they've gone through some training, they understand, they're parents who really want to be part of that, use those parents in your meeting, get them to come, get them to interact with the youth, and they'll bring you back information. Not only will it be good for the kids that are there, their own children, plus the kids that may know that parent from having seen them in school, but they'll bring you back information, and you can't do it all. So they'll give you information that'll be so helpful about your membership. Also, moving along to the next one, agent focus. Our parish agents usually, not always, but usually plan a program that they can deliver to at a 4-H meeting during the school year. Sometimes those agents will present on environmental or topics. Maybe it's wetlands, or maybe it's nutrition, or maybe it's finances. Whatever they feel like, they've already probably polled a group of advisors within the parish, and those advisors have helped them see a need in the parish. So you may just decide that the agent focus is, you may listen to that agent focus and say, this is perfect for our group. And then you can go ahead and fit your whole calendar in according to maybe have the kids talk about field trips that they could take to learn more about what the agent's talking about. Maybe they can do a community service project to be directly tied to what the agent has been teaching them in the educational program. And remember this, the agent can come to your school, or they can come to your club meeting, and they can present in person, but nothing says that they can't still present virtually if it's okay for that agent and it's more appropriate. If that agent is talking about wetlands and they want kids to learn about wetlands, nothing says that they can't go right in the wetlands and do a virtual call, and you can't project that right on a screen to have your students listen to that agent right at the point of learning. And speaking of that, the next one, the next bullet is kids as teachers. If you have kids that have a talent for doing a particular thing, maybe it's cooking, gardening, working in the barn, showing livestock, they have a skill and they can't wait to teach the other kids about it, then they can present that at a club meeting, but they can do it virtually as well. You can have those students, let's say they're in the kitchen, they pre-record it and they present it at a meeting, or they show you their garden, they record themselves walking through a garden maybe they've created at their church, and maybe it's going to be a community garden and they're going to teach the other 4-H members about this garden. And also from the livestock barn, livestock is really big in Louisiana, and it's a wonderful project, a wonderful program. There are lots of times we could either, those kids that go to the state livestock show could present to their 4-H, co-4-H members back at the 4-H meeting as they're getting ready to show livestock or grooming their livestock in the livestock barn. And the last part, don't forget about those parents. As 4-H volunteers, we want our kids to have every opportunity, and remember, if those parents are involved and they become volunteers themselves, the kids will respond better. It's a home thing, it's a family thing, it's a parent thing. You can get those parents to invite speakers. You can have them at your meetings to maybe help you if you have a large club, facilitating with questions that kids may have, to organize that, to walk around, to be part of that. Remember those parents. And the very last group of tips that I have for you is about laughing. And I don't have to tell you what the question here, I'm going to tell you right out. There's a statement here. This is why young people come to the meeting. They want to laugh, They want to interact with other youth, especially after being gone from 4-H, from a formal 4-H meeting for about a year and a half. If they've been meeting virtually and you have a chance to meet face to face, I'm telling you, they're coming to your meeting and they want to interact with the other 4-Hers. They want to get to know them. They want to know their names. They want to know who they have what in common with. Is this person showing rabbits, or is this person showing chickens? Does this person sew? Does this person cook? They find ties within their school, within their community, within their state, with other youth that have the same interest as them. So let's talk just a little bit more about the lapping or the recreational activities. Before you begin your activities, whoever is the person that's going to be facilitating this or is in charge, or maybe you put a parent or a teen, I have that as the last bullet, but whoever that is should do a physical safety check. Make sure you inspect the field or the room or the cafeteria or the building, whatever that is. Look for hazards and make sure all the equipment is in good repair. And prepare yourself, or they should be prepared mentally to lead the game, to make sure that the 4-H members, the teens, the youth, gain everything they can, and they're really focused on those young people having a good time with each other in a safe place, and getting to know each other. And the next bullet would be positive reinforcement. That's so important. The activities that you plan or that are being planned should give everyone a chance to get a pat on the back. They should feel really good about themselves when they leave. I know sometimes we have competitions. Make sure that whenever you have games or activities that lend well to competitions, that the competition part is not made so much of, and that everyone understands a little bit more about maybe not being the group that came out on top or the person that came out on top. But that's okay, because you don't do that often. There's not those sorts of competitions. And the last bullet there is, remember, parents want to volunteer. They want to be part of what their kids are doing, and the kids would really like them there too. And if you have young people, if you have youth, if you have grades 4 to 6, get those teens involved that are in your school or in your community. Let them lead. They're looking for opportunities to lead. Well, I think I've given plenty of tips. The last and most important thing is, when you're planning a new 4-H club, or you're preparing youth to lead, or you're getting volunteers to come in, please keep an open mind. And I want to tell you, I'm going to talk just a little bit about keeping an open mind and how I did such. And I've been in 4-H a long time, but when I knew that we were not going to be able to have 4-H the way we normally did in school, I became really concerned about how are kids going to hear about 4-H programs? How are they going to know about 4-H programs? I know there are 4th graders that have never experienced that before. I don't want the kids not to experience this. And thinking about the difference that I could make and what could be controlled following COVID guidelines and restrictions, I got together with a few. I put it out to some parents over our neighborhood or our subdivision Facebook page. Would you like to see our subdivision have a 4-H club? The response was unbelievable, because these parents want their kids to interact. They want them to learn from other people. Kids wanted to react. And for the last year, we've had a 4-H group, a very small group of about 12 to 15 kids, following COVID guidelines and going through a hurricane, because our subdivision was devastated by Hurricane Laura. We met in our backyards with our mask on and at a socially distancing, and just had big conversations. And then we were able to get into our 4-H office and involve our 4-H agents. And there's one picture there. I don't know if you can see my mouse move. Many times we had the 4-H agents come in, and it was the only time they were able to interact with kids. They were so happy to have us. We did We did a community service project. We cleaned the yards of our elderly citizens who could not get out and clean yards after Hurricane Laura and Delta passed through. We had subject matter experts come in and talk to us about safety. We even have, this is a picture, the bottom left, picture of us after our first community service project. We had one of our community members. He was so happy, he cooked for us, and we gave him a certificate. We recognized him and thanked him, and the kids were so happy to thank him, and he's cooked for us ever since. So it's really been good for our community, and I'm very happy to say that they have gotten with me, and we are going to keep our Clearfield 4-H group intact, and our 4-H agents have given us all the support that they can. So I think that I have talked long enough. I hope I haven't gone too far over time. I think pretty close. But Megan, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And now we'll open it up if there are any questions. If there are any of the seasoned volunteers who have done this before, if you'd like to give more suggestions or share your experiences, would that be okay, Megan? Do we have time for some interaction? Okay, let's go to the conversation. So if you have a question and you'd like to post it, or if you want to talk or say something even. I see Susan posted something. I once gave a presentation to a homeschool club when I worked for the police department about calling 911. Wore my uniform and everything, and oh my gosh, those kids, I bet, were so excited, and you just don't know the impact you made on them by your presentation. Susan, you can come talk to our group anytime you want to. Okay, I see Jay. Jay, would you like to go ahead?
I didn't say, this was awesome. The information that you presented tonight is not only good for club meetings, and that's what this meeting is all about, and probably most of the volunteers on here are club leaders, but this could be used for teams. This same information will help us in planning our adult meetings. This was great, Ruby. You need to submit this for a workshop for both conferences. This is great information, and it's generic enough that it's not state specific, so it's awesome.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I was hoping that we just can't go through, we just have to utilize our tools and just keep an open mind about what we're able to do, not look at all the restrictions, which is important. We need to, or look at the things we can't do. We need to look at the things that we can do and how we can keep 4-H going. It's with 6 million youth participants across the United States, 4-H is a program that's going to be around for a long time. So would anybody else like to comment about something they've done in a club or any questions you may have? I know we have some new club leaders. We have some seasoned volunteers, and Megan's here to help you with information, gaining information if you feel like you need more information. Okay, Jeanette says, I was a Girl Scout leader for 6 years. The girls loved the structured way of meeting. It can be chaos without that. That's true. You have to have some structure, and you have to have that agenda. So very good. That's good information.
And Ruby, while people are sharing, do you want me to show the online resources, like where people could find stuff? Okay, great.
Yes.
I'll do that. So if y'all want, feel free to keep sharing in the chat as you have thoughts. So let me just share my screen real quick. The one thing that has been kind of important for me has been building out the resources on the web. And so when I started as the specialist, we had a long way to go. And we've making progress. I have lots of more things that I want to add, but we've made progress. So if you go to the Ag Center website, we do have a section for our leaders. So it's the upcoming events are listed, how to become a 4-H volunteer leader that maps out, how to get started. So the onboarding process, the different volunteer roles or leader roles that we have, completing that screening or any required training. So that section's kind of mapped out pretty clearly. We do have training and resources available, more information about volunteer recognition. So we have several ways that you can be recognized for your efforts through National Salute to Excellence, through our Hall of Fame, annual awards through the VLA. We also have some annual awards in partnership with Volunteer Louisiana. So various ways that we recognize our leaders for their efforts throughout the state. And then training and resources, and this page is it gets updated. I try to update it every 2 weeks or so, but all of our webinars are listed, information about the conferences, some virtual resources, some activity specific resources, the newsletters, links to those is previous newsletter links as well, information about the VLA or the volunteer conference. And then the Letters to Leaders series, the Club Leader Guide, there's a handbook. I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 pages or so for leaders throughout the state. And then the information in the letters to our leaders, we've got, what is 4-H, getting started with clubs, planning and conducting meetings, more about experiential learning process, your role as a teacher and a leader, and facts about 4-H, what leaders do, planning that 4-H club program, making 4-H meetings exciting, and then also that club leader guide. So those resources, anytime you need some materials or you need some help in those various areas, feel free to download those simple guides that are available to you, and keep updated with this page, more on the Master Volunteer Program, online trainings as well. And like I said, I update it about every 2 weeks, and I'm going to continue to update it as I get more material created for our leaders throughout the state. And then also, I know several of you have reached out about getting added to the newsletter, so I just went ahead and did that for y'all tonight. But the VLA does have a Facebook page. If you do Facebook, I'll share that in the chat. And then also in the recap email that goes out with Miss Ruby's slides and the recording of the presentation. But we do try to keep it updated with the events that are ongoing, as well as any of the resources. So, and, shout out to the great stuff that y'all are doing throughout the state. So stay connected with us online. You get on the newsletter list, stay on these webinars, do the regional trainings or the regional connections when you have a chance, and, stay in touch with all of the programming and the events that are available for leaders throughout their state. So anything else? Oh, you have a couple more. Lydia said, wonderful presentation, Ruby, if you saw that one. So
Yes, thank you, Lydia. Thank you so much.
all right, any other thoughts, comments, questions? Okay. Great. Well, just give me 1 second and I will share the evaluation in the chat. So thank you, Ruby, for the session today. I thought we all found it very, very helpful. I thought it was a great session. And so I'm going to go ahead and share that evaluation. So if you're working on your portfolio and you need to complete that evaluation, you can go ahead and do that. Just a second. All right. And it does produce a certificate that will be sent to your email. Great. All right. And then each of these sessions will be is recorded. Like I said, we will post them in the VLA classroom and make them available for you all online. We hope that you enjoyed today's session. Reach out if you need any assistance. I will get the recap email out tomorrow. And then Justin has already asked for that recording. Yes, I'll reach out tomorrow with the additional resources and the slides as well as the recording link. So thank you all for joining us tonight, and thank you, Miss Ruby, for sharing your knowledge with us. We greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome, and thank you, Megan. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Y'all have a great night.